The exact moment my fiancé grabbed the microphone and smiled at a room full of our friends and family, I thought he was about to say something romantic. Instead, he cleared his throat, looked straight at me, and said, "Actually, there won't be a wedding today." And the room went dead silent. I felt every eye snap toward me as my stomach dropped through the floor. My hands started shaking, my ears were ringing, and all I could think was that this had to be some kind of cruel joke. But then he continued, loud and calm, explaining why he was ending our wedding in public, and I realized he wasn't joking at all. He was trying to break me in front of everyone I loved. So tell me honestly, if the person you trusted most humiliated you like that, on what was supposed to be the happiest day of your life, what would you have done in my place? To understand how I ended up standing there in a white dress while my entire world collapsed, you need to know how things started. I met him, I'll call him Ryan, almost 4 years earlier through mutual friends. He was charming in that effortless way, the kind of guy who made everyone feel like they were the most interesting person in the room. When he focused on me, it felt intoxicating. He listened, he remembered small details, he made me laugh until my sides hurt. I had come out of a long, boring relationship before him, and Ryan felt like color after years of gray. Within months, we were inseparable. He told me he'd never felt this way before, that I was different, that he could see a future with me. Looking back, those words came fast, but at the time they felt like destiny. There were red flags, of course, but I ignored them. Ryan loved attention. He loved being admired, praised, envied. At parties, he'd tell stories where he was always the hero, the smartest one, the victim who overcame everything. Sometimes he'd make little jokes at my expense, nothing huge, just comments about how emotional I was, or how I couldn't make decisions without him. If I got upset, he'd laugh it off, and tell me I was too sensitive. I convinced myself that was just his sense of humor. I didn't want to be the difficult girlfriend who couldn't take a joke. When he proposed, it was extravagant. A weekend getaway, a photographer hiding in the bushes, strangers applauding when I said yes. I cried, everyone cried, and I felt like I was living inside a movie. My family adored him. My friends were impressed by him. And he loved that. He loved being the guy who pulled off the perfect proposal. Wedding planning became his stage. He insisted on a big venue, a big guest list, a big moment. I'm more private by nature, but he told me this was a once-in-a-lifetime day and we had to do it right. I compromised because that's what I had been doing our entire relationship. As the wedding got closer, the pressure intensified. Ryan became more controlling, more critical. He'd comment on my weight, on my dress fittings, on how I spoke to vendors. He told me I embarrassed him once, because I corrected him about a date in front of his friends. We started arguing more, and every argument somehow ended with me apologizing. He always flipped things around, telling me I was lucky he put up with me, that no one else would. I started doubting myself. I started trying harder. The night before the wedding, I barely slept. Ryan barely spoke to me. He said he needed space to calm his nerves. I lay awake staring at the ceiling, telling myself this was just stress, that tomorrow would reset everything. On the morning of the wedding, my bridesmaids tried to distract me with music and champagne. I smiled in photos. I told everyone I was happy. When I put on my dress, my mom cried and told me how beautiful I looked. I remember thinking, no matter what, I can't ruin this for her. The ceremony itself was beautiful. Ryan cried when he saw me walk down the aisle. He squeezed my hands during our vows. When we kissed, everyone cheered. I thought maybe I was wrong. Maybe all my fears were just anxiety. The reception started, and everything felt surreal, like I was floating. Then came the speeches, the dinner, the laughter. I started to relax. I remember thinking, we made it. Then Ryan stood up and took the microphone. At first, he thanked everyone for coming. He joked about how expensive weddings are. People laughed. I smiled, relieved. Then his tone shifted. He said he believed in honesty above all else, and that it wouldn't be fair to start a marriage with lies. I felt my chest tighten. He turned toward me, still smiling, and said he couldn't go through with marrying someone who had betrayed his trust. Murmurs rippled through the room. My heart was pounding so hard I thought I might pass out. He accused me publicly of flirting with a coworker, of disrespecting him, of being selfish and unstable. He said he deserved better and that this wedding was a mistake. Each word felt like a slap. I tried to speak, but no sound came out. I looked around and saw shock, confusion, pity. My parents looked horrified. My friends were frozen. Ryan finished by saying he hoped this would teach me a lesson about honesty and loyalty. Then he set the microphone down and walked away. For a few seconds, no one moved. Then whispers exploded. I felt like I was naked. My face was burning, my vision blurred with tears, and my knees almost buckled. I wanted to disappear. I wanted the floor to swallow me whole. This was exactly what he wanted. He wanted to punish me, to humiliate me, to show me he had the power. But something strange happened in that moment. As the initial shock faded, a different feeling crept in. Anger. Not the wild kind, but a cold, steady clarity. I realized something important. Everything he accused me of was either twisted or outright false. And he knew it. He didn't want answers. He wanted a performance. And he wanted me to be the villain. People started coming up to me, asking if I was okay, asking what happened. Ryan had vanished. I could feel hundreds of questions pressing in on me. I took a deep breath, wiped my tears, and did something I never thought I'd be able to do. I stood up. I walked over to the DJ booth, asked for the microphone, and the room slowly quieted again. My hands were shaking, but my voice didn't. I said that I hadn't planned on speaking, but since my wedding had just been canceled in front of everyone, I felt I deserved a chance to respond. I explained, calmly, that Ryan's accusations were not the full truth. I admitted that we had problems, but I denied betraying him. I told them that ending a relationship was one thing, but publicly humiliating someone on their wedding day was another. I said I hoped no one else in that room would ever be treated the way I had just been treated. Then I handed the microphone back and walked away. The rest of the night was chaos. Some guests left, some stayed, unsure what to do. My family gathered around me. I didn't cry anymore. I felt numb, but also strangely empowered. Ryan never came back. He sent me a text later, saying he'd made the right choice, and that I should reflect on my behavior. That was the moment I knew I was done letting him control the narrative. Over the next few days, the story spread. People reached out, asking for my side, and here's where things started to turn. I had receipts, messages where Ryan admitted he wanted to scare me into being better. Messages where he talked about how powerful it would be to walk away publicly. He had told a friend he wanted to teach me a lesson I'd never forget. I hadn't shared these before because I was embarrassed and afraid. But after what he did, I realized I had nothing left to protect. So that's the situation I was in, humiliated at my own wedding, painted as the villain, sitting on evidence that could change everything. Before I tell you what happened next, I want you to pause and ask yourself what you would have done in my shoes. Would you stay silent and move on, or would you fight back and reclaim your story? Seriously, comment below what choice you would make, because what I decided to do changed everything. I decided to tell the truth, not in a messy, vindictive way, but clearly and publicly. I wrote a long post explaining what had happened, without insults, without exaggeration. I included screenshots. I explained the context. I explained how blindsided I was. I posted it and turned off my phone. When I turned it back on hours later, my notifications had exploded. People were furious on my behalf. Friends I thought were neutral reached out to apologize for believing him. Even some of Ryan's friends contacted me, saying they had no idea he was capable of something like that. Ryan did not take this well. He accused me of trying to ruin his life. He demanded I take everything down. He threatened legal action. But the damage was done. His carefully crafted image cracked. People saw the pattern of manipulation, the need for control, the cruelty of his actions. He had tried to break me publicly, and instead he exposed himself. The aftermath wasn't easy. I had to cancel vendors, return gifts, deal with the emotional wreckage. There were days I couldn't get out of bed. I questioned my judgment, my worth, my ability to trust. But slowly, things shifted. I started therapy. I leaned on friends I hadn't realized were so strong. I started rebuilding my confidence piece by piece. Ryan, on the other hand, spiraled. His job put him on leave because of the attention. His social circle shrank. The sympathy he expected never came. People remembered that wedding, that moment, and they remembered my calm response. He tried to reach out months later, apologizing, saying he was under pressure and made a mistake. I didn't respond. I had learned that closure doesn't always come from a conversation. Looking back now, I see that day differently. Yes, It was one of the most painful experiences of my life, but it was also the moment I stopped shrinking myself to fit someone else's ego. He wanted to end our wedding to break me, to make me small and ashamed. Instead, it forced me to stand up in front of everyone and choose myself. If there's a lesson in all of this, it's that humiliation loses its power when you refuse to internalize it. People who try to control you with fear and shame are terrified of being seen for who they really are. I wish I had seen the signs sooner, but I'm grateful I saw them before signing a lifetime contract with the wrong person. So that's my story. If you were on my side, if you think I did the right thing by speaking up, like this video. If you want to hear more stories like this, where the truth comes out and people reclaim their power, subscribe to the channel. And I really want to know your final thoughts on this whole mess, so share them in the comments. I read them, and they matter. Thanks for listening, and I'll see you all in the next story.